of Sheikh and Shai. Today we're joined by Sheikh Muhamad Vedut, another local scholar who's done a lot for our community, who's come to Sheikh and Shai before and many other events. So just want to say thank you, Sheikh, for coming by again. Today we're going to talk about a topic that you all actually decided on through voting. So naturally it's very high in demand. So that topic is going to be how to translate our ilm into amal, right? How to translate our knowledge into action. So without further ado, Sheikh, if you have any starting words you'd like to start us off with.
Okay, sure. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد لقد جاءكم رسولنا بالحق صلوا على نبينا محمد صلوا على خير خلقنا محمد اللهم صل وسلم صلوا على شفيع ذنوبنا محمد اللهم صل وسلم اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إنا كنا من الظالمين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي وبعد. First of all, Jazakallah khair for the invitation again. It's always a pleasure to be on campus with you guys. Also, I'm not a sheikh, so let's just be clear about that. There's two versions of sheikh. There's someone who is extremely knowledgeable and is a teacher or a scholar in the faith or in other fields or areas. We call them sheikh. Or you are of the age, generally it's like 50, 55 is the starting age in which you reach a stage in your life, Jazakallah khair. And it is the stage of shaykhuha, which means it's a later stage in your life. And in that, we summarize it as sheikh. So just want to be clear about that. But I appreciate the kind words. So I had some, the last couple days, like just learning about the topic in general. When we think about translating your knowledge into action, right? I think a lot of us are really good at the first stage, gaining knowledge or learning things, right? It's just like when you go to class, right? You go to class, you listen to a lecture or whatever it is that's in front of you, and you try to take in that information. And then when a problem set comes in front of you, or a quiz, or whatever it is, then your knowledge is tested to see, have you retained that knowledge? Maybe you're in a lab setting and your test is in a lab. Take that knowledge and apply it to something. So it depends. But anytime we're able to consume, we must then use it for its implementation. The first thing I'll say about knowledge, okay? You guys good? Or is this going to fall on me?
No, you're good.
The first thing that I'll say about knowledge is my teachers told me, if you're going to be a teacher, or if you're going to give da'wah, or if you're going to be part of this deen, and you're in this setting where you're teaching people, you're telling people about the deen, you're giving a khutbah, you're giving a class or a lecture, you're having a Quran dars, memorization, whatever it might be, in the deen, I'm saying specifically. If you're doing it to achieve that purpose, then you haven't understood what knowledge is. Attaining knowledge at the beginning, what it is that you are trying to get yourself close to Allah. It's not about other people. You could go travel years and years and years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years. If all that you got out of that was that you got close to Allah, you achieved this purpose. But if your intention was so that I may then teach others, and that becomes your purpose, then know that you have entered a type of disease, and that disease is called the love of leadership. People that love to be the leader. They love to be the center stage. They love to be the ones that are teaching. And perhaps they're knowledgeable. Perhaps they know better than others, more than others. But their intention was for the sake of the love of that title, of that leadership. And as we know in the famous hadith of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the three, and in some narrations the four, that will be the first to be judged. Anybody know what they are? Yes.
The scholar whose intention was to gain recognition from the people.
Exactly, that's one. The scholar that had the intention, or he wanted to learn and become famous so that the people would say and praise his name. Yes.
A person who was a martyr for the sake of telling other people that this person is.
The person who became a martyr, who wanted the praises of other people, and to be famous and to be known because of the reason why he got martyred. What's the third one?
The one who gives sadaqah so people would know that he gives sadaqah.
That's one where there's another narration for. The person who gave a sadaqah and he wanted other people to know that he gave that sadaqah. Yeah,
The person who recites the Quran, the Quran,
correct.
beautifies it to recognize.
He memorized the Quran so that other would call him a hafiz, or he would say he's a reciter, or he has a beautiful voice. What is common in all of those 3 or 4 things? What's common among them? Sisters? No? Yep.
You're doing it for other people, not for Allah.
You're doing it for the praise of other people. It's all about others. It's what others think of me. It's what others will say about me. It's what others will praise me or not praise me. It's what others will look up to me or not look up to me. Others will see me here, not here. Others will put me up and not put me down. Right? It's all about other people. And this is the beginning of the stages of knowledge, right? And even sisters, I'll tell you something, like this hijab that you're wearing, it is an unbelievable blessing that you maybe understand a very, very little about. You might think in the outskirts that it's about me covering myself and being modest. I'm telling you, that is only a small portion of it. It is greater than this, bigger than this. It is not just about modesty. Not just about modesty. You're doing something irrespective of what society and the community is telling you. Why? By the simple fact that it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who commanded it. Simple fact. There is nothing more special in the deen that I see that is prescribed for women only, except that I see that it's the hijab. It is something so special. The prayer is for everybody. Everybody needs to be praying. But the hijab itself is something special. Don't fall into the trap of making it something praiseworthy. Be in the mindset of this is for Allah and I'm going to do it to the best of my capacity. Not all of it is perfect. Not all of it is 100%. But I'm doing it for the sole purpose for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that is knowledge. Then when we get to action, we talk about the implementation of that knowledge. How do we get there? There are 2 aspects, 2 steps that have to be taken in order to take something, translate it from knowledge to action. Number 1, that thing is called accountability. Or in our case, self-accountability. And then the second part is Consistency. The consistency of that action. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون. O you who believe, look at yourselves. وَلْتَنْظُرْ نَفْسٌ. Look at yourself. مَا قَدَّمَتْ لِغَدٍ وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهِ. Look at what you have done in your life, in your past, in your actions. Fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِنَّ اللَّهَ خَبِيرٌ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ. He is the knower of all things. He is the all-knowing, the all-seeing. Imam al-Sa'di, rahimahullah, he said that this ayah, هذه الآية الكريمة أصل في محاسبة العبد نفسه. This ayah, when it was revealed, the asl or the source or the root of that ayah, the meaning of it, it is about self-accountability. Umar radiallahu anhu, he was asked by one of the believers. They came to Umar and they said, Ya Umar, what is accountability? And in this case, the question was more, what is taqwa? What is taqwa? And there's a reason why I'm relating the two things. Because taqwa is you being conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the way Umar described it is he said, if you see a path, and this path there's thorns, and if I'm walking on this path, how will I walk? I will walk with a sense of consciousness. I'm aware, I'm looking, I'm making sure I don't step on the thorn. I'm making sure my left is not complicating my right. I'm looking and making sure that this direction and that direction, making sure that I don't get hit by the thorn. I don't get spiked. I don't start getting cuts on my leg or on my feet. Why? Because I'm trying to reach a destination. What are you doing when you have taqwa? You're conscious and you are accountable. Conscious and accountable. When you have taqwa, you're doing both of them at the same time. Automatically. Because if you have taqwa, you have consciousness of Allah, you're in a place, you're sitting down, and if you're in the wrong place, or you realize that you're in the wrong place, what do? You get up and you leave. What have you done? You became conscious of Allah, you realize you're doing something wrong, and then you followed it up with action. Why? Because you are self-accountable. Accountable for where I am, where I'm sitting, what I'm doing at that moment, in that place, at that time. So, accountability, my brothers and sisters, is something that is very difficult to do. I'm not going to lie to you. Very difficult. It's something that you have to think about constantly. It's something that doesn't come easy. You have to be ready to be accountable. You know, who remembers, when they were maybe teenagers not so long ago, in your case, right? You would, the weekend would come, right? And you sleep in, correct? Because it's the weekend. And then you hear a knock on your door from your mother or your father telling you to what? Telling you to wake up, right? Get up off your butt, right? Stop being lazy, right? Why? Because you're wasting time, you're not being accountable, you're being lazy, you're sleeping through the day, right? They hold you accountable all the time, your parents, correct or no?
Yeah.
They're always asking you, how were your grades? How did that test go? Why? Holding you accountable, right? Because you know you can't disappoint them or else something's coming, right? Your parents are going to hold you accountable. They're going to ask you, when I get my report card and I don't show my parents, you know, it's not going to be a great conversation, correct? Because they think I'm hiding something. Why? Because they're holding me accountable. When you hold yourself accountable, it is a very ultimate state to be in. Nobody likes to, live life. As believers, we're not in it to live life just for the heck of it. So is it okay for you to, in your program, if the average was 75 to maintain in your program, let's say, okay, let's make it easy, 60, right? Let's say, I think it's 60, right? I'm not sure. 60. In engineering, it was 60 for us. 60 was the average you got to maintain. And you were 59. How are you holding yourself accountable? You're holding yourself accountable to maintain 60 average, correct or no? You're always calculating, if I get this mark on this exam, and I calculate my assignment marks and my midterm that I failed, I'm going to get a 61. I passed. I'm holding myself accountable to making sure I pass, correct or no? Mm-hmm. Right? You want to get into medical school? You know you got to hit a minimum average on an MCAT score. Why? Because you're trying to get into medical school. What are you holding yourself accountable to? The average that you need to maintain to achieve that goal. Correct or no? Mm-hmm. In your deen, it's the same thing. But perhaps the reason why we struggle, perhaps, is that we don't see it as something tangible. See, we have a habit, and I'm in this category, we have a habit of missing Fajr. We have a habit of missing Fajr, even though we may have an intention and we're trying and we set an alarm and we hit the alarm and we wait for the next one. And, I know some people, they go to, they do the masah, right? So they try to maintain their wudu for 24 hours. So they go to sleep in these leather socks to make sure they can get up for Fajr. And it's just a quick, they don't got to take their foot and put it over the sink. And it's all, because they're lazy in the morning, right? So they're working hard to make sure they wake up, right? That's being accountable to me, right? That's what it looks like to me. We're trying. Putting an alarm is being accountable, correct? That's what it is. But we have a habit of missing it. But if work started at 8 a.m. in the morning, and you knew that if you missed it once, you get a warning. The second time, you get a really bad warning. And then the third time, it strikes. You strike out, You're fired. You're laid off. You're gone. You wouldn't miss a single beat. You'd wake up hours in advance to make sure that you got to work at 8 a.m. in the morning. You've been to co-op? How many of you have been to co-op? Right? Have you ever been late?
A few times. No.
Okay. Have you ever been late consistently? Multiple times in a day? We're not talking about hybrid options here. We're talking about going into work, right? Corporate environment here, not startup. Correct? Okay, if you were a doctor, how many of you want to be a doctor? No? Okay, great. Sisters, how many of you want to be a doctor? Okay, 1 or 2. Okay, great. If you showed up to the hospital opens at 7, and you got there at 8, what do you think is going to happen?
It's not good.
You're done. You're finished. Somebody could have died the hour that you were late. Correct or no? Mm-hmm. And you were late to work. And somebody passed away, and now you're responsible. You wouldn't let that happen, would you? But Fajr, because you don't see right away the tangible aspect of Fajr without actually experiencing it fully, you don't treat it the same way. Why? Because you don't have consistency in it. If you knew that you could wake up every single morning and do all of your tasbih, all of your sunan before the Fajr prayer, the adhkar after the prayer, and stayed up till sunrise for shuruq, for the Salat al-Duha prayer, then you would really understand how sweet that day would have went. If you were consistent, if you knew the value of it. The first time or the first day you go to work, right? You don't feel it, right? But 2 weeks go by, right? And then you get the paycheck, and then you realize, oh, that's why I wake up at 8 a.m. and get to work, correct? You don't see it the first day when you start work, but you see it 2 weeks after. Your prayers, your amal, and all of those things in your deen are the same thing. How, sisters, who remembers the first time they put on the hijab? Right? The first day, how nerve-wracking, or how, I have a sister, how nerve-wracking, and a wife, obviously, but they always tell me what happened the first day and whatever. How hard was that? Maybe it wasn't hard, but maybe there was some butterflies, correct? It's the first time. And then how did it go the next day? And then how did it go the day after? And then how did it go now? How many years has it been now? Correct? Consistency. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said, the most khair of actions are the ones that are consistent, even if they're small. أدومها وإن قل. They're consistent, but they're small. So if your habit was, before you end the day, that you go to Salat al-Isha at the masjid, you finish your prayer, you get home, you eat something, then you go to sleep. If you made that a simple act of worship or action that you did every single day and you made it consistently happen, you would see a whole new life, a whole new type of barakah that would enter your realm. Small actions I'm talking about, small things, little things. If after every prayer you sat and you waited instead of getting up and you said the Ayatul Kursi and the 3 Quls 3 times each, and you did your adhkar consistently. I timed it. It takes 10 minutes, max. 10 minutes, max. It will probably take you 5 minutes because we are, Muslims of the East. We're quick with our stuff. Sometimes, like I'm Turkish. I'm half Turkish, but my people, if you ever been to Turkey, they have a adhkar thing after the prayer. Okay, and then the guy says, Subhanallah, and then everybody else Subhanallah, and then Alhamdulillah, and then Allahu Akbar, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just, by the time I'm done Subhanallah, like they're on the 3rd one, and I'm just like, man, this guy's, and I could hear some of the uncles, the tasbih, it's like quick. They're quick at it, man. But at least they're doing it. They have some consistency, they have some level of relationship with it. In fact, I was more inclined to do it because I saw that consistency in their culture more than I see it in mine, in our culture here in Canada. We sit, we do our adhkar, we finish, we leave. You make that a consistent act, every single prayer, see how your life is going to change. Obviously, if you're busy, you got somewhere to be, you've only got 5 minutes. I'm not talking about those scenarios. But if you made a sincere effort to make sure you were consistent in those actions, you would see a completely different life. If you look at your Quran, nobody's saying memorize the Quran tomorrow. If you made an intention right now, you said, Ya Allah, I make an intention, I want to memorize the Quran for your sake, Ya Allah. And you died tomorrow, the angels will finish your hifz for you while you're in your deathbed. While you're in your grave. Because of that intention. That's how it works. The angels will come in from that intention, they will complete that action for you, no problem. This is how it works. So now the question is, tomorrow, today, tonight, if you're not already memorized, and if you are memorized, what have you reviewed? Because it doesn't stop. 1 ayah. Can you do it? 1 ayah. Can we do it? Every single day. Can we memorize 1 ayah? Is it possible? Absolutely. So what's stopping you? This is what's stopping you. You know, when I got married, I realized everybody communicates in different ways. Social media, Instagram, because then you get an extended family. Everybody's on. This is how they communicate, right? They communicate through social media, Twitter, Snapchat, this and that, and I'm not used to that. I'm not really from like that world as much, other than the da'wah. But now, see, because I hate it so much, I just hired a team and they do the da'wah. I just go, I film, I leave. I don't want to touch it because I have friends in the da'wah scene where every time we went on vacation one time and all these guys wanted to do was like record. They put the camera here and record themselves in the mountains doing a da'wah video, and I'm just like, I don't want to end up like this. This is crazy. Or messaging people on. I'm like, and I told everybody like, look, if they ask a question, put it in a Google Doc, tag me in it that these are new questions, and then I will go in and answer on my own time. DMs? Are you kidding me? Are we on standby constantly? No way, man. I got a life to live too. I have a family to be a part of. You want to live your life while your mind is awake, not while it's distracted. So what did I do? Went into my phone, deleted them one by one. Okay, TikTok, gone. So what do I naturally do? What is available on my phone? Okay, I go to Instagram. Okay, the hours on Instagram go up. What happens? Dang, that's too much. Okay, what happens if I delete that one? What happens if I delete this one? What happens if I delete that one? And then now every time I go on my phone, it's a habit. You go on your phone, you check, and then it's like, oh, none of them are here. Oh yeah, I deleted them, that's why. And it's gone. I have never been so awake in my entire life. I just drove in your campus, and I couldn't see I was like, let me see if I can find a single person who didn't have headphones in their ears. I kid you not. You do take a walk. When you go out, take a walk. And I want you to count. 1, 2, 3. Everybody, something's in their ear. They're listening to something. Podcast, music, whatever. But brother, it's beneficial. Yeah, right. Really? You're learning while you walk? Acting all serious and tough? Learning about what? Enjoy your walk. Count your steps, for God's sake. Do that at least. That's fine. These things in your ears, this thing on your phone, constantly, this is what's preventing you from achieving consistency in your deen. They gave you this to distract you. They gave us this to distract us. This will be for us or against us on the day of judgment, at the end of the day. That's what's going to happen. Some of you might be upset. I'm criticizing music. I'm criticizing social media. Maybe criticizing your culture as a result of it. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Who cares? This is, at the end of the day, the thing that will take you away from your deen. If you don't learn how to control it, you will continue to stay where you are today. Oh, but brother, I'm praying 5 times a day. Everything is fine. I go to the masjid once a week. I go to Jum'ah consistently, no problem. Okay. Muslims are never satisfied with where they are. That's how we have to be. Because we're satisfied with where we are, this is why the situation in Palestine and Gaza is what it is. Because of that attitude of not aiming high. So if you want to continue that way, be my guest. The people in Gaza and Palestine will continue to suffer with that mentality, because that's the real problem. A level higher up than just consistency and by the way, things that are consistent which are good things for us, right? When they're bad, they're considered addictions. So catch yourself. Look at what you're doing. Look at how often you're doing it. See if you can wind yourself off of it. See if you can catch yourself in the act of it. And if you can do that, then I can see that you will open up so much more time for yourself. Like one of these days, for 30 minutes a day, leave your house, leave your dorm room, leave wherever, go for a walk, no technology with you, no sources of communication whatsoever available to you, and just leave. Watch how much you will start to crave that more, to be disconnected, to just focus. And then this will just become a tool at the end of the day. When somebody calls you, when somebody needs something from you, when it's about homework, when it's about school, then you'll start using it. You won't use it to distract yourself.
So we talked a lot about accountability and how we use our knowledge to be accountable of ourselves and have taqwa, and that's how we make it into action, right? So we use that knowledge of what's haram, what's halal, and using that knowledge we know when to take action. So my question is, if we take that a step further, how do we translate knowledge into proactive action? That's not just avoiding what's wrong and what's right, but just trying to go above and beyond that.
Proactive, what, sorry?
Like doing more ibadah, doing more action than what's the baseline. How do we translate our knowledge into that extra action?
Okay. So one of my teachers, what they told me about this topic specifically is, if this is my compulsory actions, right? This is my compulsory actions. This is what Shaitan does. He wants to get to the compulsory actions quickly. He wants to get there quickly. This is my home of compulsory things that I need to do. Primarily what? Your prayer, your fasting, your adab, your, things that are absolutely required from us as Muslims, right? Okay. If this is my home, I need to create a barrier to protect it. How do I protect it? I have to put sunnahs all around my actions. Because what happens? If you begin to be consistent in the, not just the compulsory things, but the things that are sunnah in our faith, the sunnahs of your faith, inside the faith, then what will Shaitan do? He won't go for the compulsory things right away. He will try to break your consistency inside of your sunnah first, to break that shield that you have over it, to then get into the compulsory acts. That's what he's going to do. Because there's going to be cracks that happen over time, because you can never be 100% consistent. So even the Prophet ﷺ, you have narrations where he actually makes up for sunnahs in his amal. So let's say there was a sunnah in his prayer. He wasn't able to pray it. Before he goes to sleep, or at a later time in the day, he will make up that sunnah. Why? Because he's trying to protect what is compulsory around him. He's trying to protect his home. That's what he's trying to do. So to get proactive, you have to put more sunnahs in front of you. So you can imagine if I added a bunch of sunnahs consistently, or a lot of sunnahs that I was implementing every single day, which were consistent, maybe small, but consistent, what would happen? I would see a big shield around my compulsory acts. Basically a big shield around my heart. That's what would happen. That's how you get proactive. So while I might be talking through the lens of compulsory acts, the sunnah acts is what takes it to the next level, is that you protect your, or you shield what is compulsory, what is required of you as a Muslim. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Make sense?
Any other questions from the
I guess
sister
we can
side?
go into Q&A, so sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So one question we have here is, so you kind of touched on this with the whole idea of taking accountability, but a lot of the times we know what we have to do, right? We know the fard, we know the sunnah, right? We know what we're supposed to do, but there's still a disconnect between what we actually end up doing and what we know, right? And so other than just taking accountability, what are some actionable kind of applicable steps we can take to really bridge that gap and apply what we know, if that makes sense.
So give me an example of there's the disconnect.
It's like a lot of times, like, for example, we know that a lot of things are wrong, right? Sins and whatnot, or delaying our prayers. But sometimes, we just do it anyways, right? We don't really, we don't want to think about that, and we just do it anyways, right? How do we avoid that?
So there's two things. If you're in a group setting, right? This will tell you whether your group is a good group or not. So in a group setting, if this happens, let's say the time of prayer comes and you're delaying, but there will always be that one person that it's not going to fall for that trap, or that you remind each other of that trap, perhaps. That's one way. So keeping good company can help you prevent those scenarios. That's one thing. Also, if you're in a good group, you're not going to end up in a bad place, because they're going to probably avoid going there and then make you look bad, or you're going to feel bad, or they're going to remind you directly. Now, if I'm alone and I fall into these traps, or I'm falling to these kind of inconsistencies, then at that point it becomes a matter of like, so at the end of the day, something that has been a habit for me is to ask for forgiveness for that day. Okay? You might commit those actions regardless. To avoid them is to be conscious of them. If you're conscious of them at a later time, chances are, if it happens again at another day or another time, you'll remember that I just made repentance on this. And you might do it again. But then you'll repent again. And you'll say, Ya Allah, I shouldn't have been there. I shouldn't have done that. Please forgive me. And then you go to sleep. You're going to find yourself continuously purifying yourself. Always. Always making istighfar in that way. Now, if you go to bed without any guilt, without any remorse, without thinking through your day, you're going to find yourself in a very dark place very quickly. But you need to get to a stage not of avoiding those things. You need to get to a stage of, I need to be more consistent in asking for forgiveness, regardless of what I've done, whatever it is, small or big, doesn't matter. But I need to get there. If you get there, then you answer your question. How do I avoid it? I avoid it because I'm now being conscious of it, and therefore, in the future, I have the potential to avoid it.
Oh, okay.
Or sorry.
Yeah.
So, when it comes to trying to build better habits, often, and this can be sort of like maybe you're just scrolling on social media, you're often given reminders of things,
Yep.
or even tidbits of knowledge, for example. And sometimes I feel like it can get a bit of an overload of a bunch of different pieces of knowledge, a bunch of different reminders being thrown at us all at once.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a certain way that we can go about maybe breaking down those reminders to eventually help us construct better habits, for example? Or in essence, maybe even just an approach where you're given a reminder or a piece of knowledge. How do you actually go about that, applying it?
Look, I don't think social media scrolling is a form of attaining knowledge. That's the difference between me and you. You're thinking of it as I'm getting tidbits of information and I want to utilize it correctly. My approach is that's not attaining knowledge for me. Knowledge is about where am I sitting, what am I doing, what is the environment that I'm in, who are the people that are around me. You understand? It's not just about I just opened my phone or YouTube or whatever and I'm listening. It doesn't work like that. It's a spirit. Knowledge is a spiritual experience. Okay, it starts from the moment you begin to the moment you end. So it needs to be sacred in that way as well, not just accessible. It's very accessible, but you need to treat it in that way, like your prayer. You know what I mean? Go ahead.
To kind of follow up on that, and like Jazakallah khairan for that as well. But when it comes to like, even if I go to a khutbah and then I go to a halaqah or something, I do still feel like there's a decent bit of knowledge or advice or reminders that have been thrown at me. And sometimes it can feel like a lot. Like, how do I actually digest by going about bit by bit?
My approach is, if I go to a khutbah or Jum'ah, I always try, I'm not trying to get all the information. I try to get one thing before I leave. Because my mother, she used to, after Jum'ah, she used to have this consistent question. She's like, so what'd you learn today? What did the Imam talk about at the khutbah, right? So I would have this habit of preparing one thing. And as I got older, I'd be like, 2 things or 3 things, But if you get one thing out of it, then if I asked you, what was last week's khutbah about, right? You'd be like, it's about that. And you know that that's what stuck with you in the khutbah. Now, some things have an effect on it, like the delivery of the khutbah, the type of khutbah. Was it boring? Was it electrifying? Was it, it depends. But try to get one thing. Then at least when you're being attentive, you know that you're sitting there, you prepared for Jum'ah, you cleanse yourself, all those rituals that take place before all the sunnahs that take place before Jum'ah, and now you're listening for that one tidbit of information that you can take with you for the rest of next week. Just one. It's not about the whole thing. I've seen people they go to these meetings, I saw one guy when I was in London, in the UK. He had this necklace, and this had a microphone or something. It was like a circular thing, okay? And I was like, brother, what's that around your neck? He's like, this is my note taker. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, because I'm having conversations constantly, and I just don't have the time to sit there and take notes. So I wear this, and then this thing takes everything that we say, it goes into an AI thing, and it creates my notes for me. I mean, if you want to do that, you're welcome to. But I just think that that's crazy.
Yeah.
So, on the point that Sahad asked the question, falling inconsistent with the wajibat or the fara'id, right? But, for example, that we talked about the barrier of sunnah we have around our wajibat, right? And taking that barrier, and oftentimes we can fall short. Suddenly, I find myself you fall through short on a sunnah, and then suddenly everything starts falling apart, and you have to catch yourself. How do we maintain that barrier without it because oftentimes the barrier is a very shaky place as well, right? So how do we maintain that?
So I had somebody ask me this question on Eid one time. And it was, what I told him is what my teacher told me, okay? He said, when you get to the end of the day before you go to bed, whatever you need to make it up then. Don't go to sleep until it's been made up. Whatever that consistent thing is in your life, if it's these sunnah prayers, if it's the adhkar, whatever it is, whatever that thing is that you need to do, or it's maybe a compulsory prayer, who knows, right? I missed Fajr today, for example, right? Okay. Either I've made it up when I woke up, or I just completely forgot about it and started my day, and now it's Isha. Okay. Before you go to bed, you make up Fajr. And all the sunnahs that you've missed on top of it. What's the worst that could happen? Nothing. You've made up your prayer. You've made up the sunnahs for that prayer, correct? And the other prayers that you've made up, and all the other sunnahs that you've actually prayed. Okay, now, I'm back to zero. I can sleep with my mind clear that, okay, it was a tough day, but I came through in the end, at the end of the day. Yeah.
Follow up to that. I guess this one's more in terms of the sunnah.
By the way, that person who doesn't recognize me, I see him at the masjid now. This guy was working security. He's like, man, I worked security 24/7. I can never pray. I'm like, really? I find that hard to believe, but if you cannot pray at all throughout your workday, and you get to bed, that means you have time before bed to make up all those prayers. I kid you not. Like, I'm talking 2 days ago we had this conversation. This guy's in the masjid now for Maghrib and Isha, at least the ones that I go to. I don't know if he goes to the other ones, but I'm telling you, like, it works. Because it showed me that, okay, this guy went into some level of consistency, either implementing it in the day or at least getting to the end of the day and doing whatever he could to make sure it was all made up and square. Sorry, go ahead.
I guess on that point, like it's making it up 100%, but more in terms of like the sunnah itself. How do we position our brain in the way that we ensure that we're making up for even the sunnahs? Because a lot of the time, like with the fara'id, we're like, okay, we have to make them up, like it's a matter of taqwa at that point. But for the sunnah, it's a matter of being accountable to ourselves. So then that one's a little bit harder at times. So
Yeah, it can be.
How do you get that level of accountability? Do you have any tips?
It comes down to the care you have for it, right? If you care for it like you care for the sunnah, you're gonna do it. You will get there. Like you have to wire your mind that way, right? It takes consistency to think this way. It's not like it starts with implementing it consistently, to care about it enough. If you're like somebody who kind of does it, don't expect that you're going to be somebody who is consistent about thinking about implementing it and all these other things. You won't be. But if it's a part of your daily routine, I kid you not, you will wire your brain to be like that. Automatically, you'll be like, I'm going to do this. No matter what, I got to get this done. Like if you go to some like cultures or some countries, like I see, like I remember in a place I visited, they wouldn't leave the masjid until every sunnah was prayed. Like I felt bad leaving the masjid after, 2 sunnah. These guys praying, I don't know what kind of sunnahs they're praying, but they're praying like there's all these other sunnahs I didn't know about that they're praying. And I'm like, whoa, this is overkill. But they go hard, man. I was like, wow, this is amazing. It really impressed me, right? When I got to the masjid, the adhan went off. Bro, everybody got up and like they're doing their sunnahs like it's farad. Like you look like a loser in the masjid. Like you're like, what are you doing? Sitting down, right? In some cultures, it's like for me, I don't wear a hat when I pray. Like some people, they have, in some madhabs, it's highly recommended to cover your head when you pray. So I don't do that. I'm not like, I don't follow that rule per se. But I went to a mosque that did. So I got there, and the uncle beside me, he was wearing a turban. And he took off his turban, and under the turban, he's wearing this other cover hat, right? And he's like, here you go. Wow. And I'm like, okay. Like, what do I do with this? But the prayer is about to start. I'm not going to start an argument. I'm not going to tell him. So all right, man, fine. What can I do? Right? And I prayed. I couldn't even talk to the guy after because the guy got up and started praying sunnah. Like he went off and started doing the sunnah prayers, and we finished and everything, and he was praying, and I just put the thing on the side and I left. I told the imam though, because I said, look, if that it happened to me, I understood, but if it happened to a guy who just showed up to the masjid for the first time, it's not like, it's gonna be scary. It's gonna be like, oh shoot, I did something wrong, I just kind of told him like, make sure you talk to him. But nothing wrong with it. It's just, but he treats it like you gotta have it. If you treat it that way, that's what it will become for you. And therefore you won't allow yourself to fall into that trap. It's like you go to the gym, right? You gonna shower after the gym? Or you're not gonna shower after the gym? Yes or no? Right? It's. Oh man.
At home.
If you go to the gym and you don't shower or you don't cleanse yourself somehow, for a lot of us, maybe not all of us, That's considered disgusting if you don't. Right?
Clarify at home for sure.
Right? Right? Let's assuming you go home and you shower, right? I'm not saying there necessarily, in the gym. But you're gonna go home and shower. You're not gonna just stay like this. Right? Why? It's not gonna happen, bro. That's you consistent. You're wired for that. It's the same thing. You're not gonna allow yourself to fall into that. If it becomes like this, you won't miss it. It will always be there.
Yeah, question.
What are some ways that I can retain consciousness of Allah? Like,
Say that again.
what are some ways that I can retain consciousness of Allah? Like, there's times where everything gets too much, and that's usually
Like what?
like for example, it could be academics, it could be in your personal life. There's too many things going on at once.
Okay.
Kind of like that breaks the habit of me keeping like sunnah, for example. So like, one of the ways that you can obviously fix that is having consciousness of Allah. But what are some ways that I can like always keep that in my head and remind myself?
Look, if it's academics, you know that you have to think this way. You know you have 5 daily prayers in the day. You don't plan your academics against the prayer. It's the opposite direction. The prayer is consistent throughout the day. It's set. Everything else is planned around this. Why? Because this is your time to be with Allah at the end of the day. You need to understand that if I was working, if I had a job doesn't mean I'm going to work, I'm going to make money. The money doesn't belong to you. The money it belongs to Allah at the end of the day. Allah is Ar-Razzaq. Correct? Your success is determined because it's not you that is the one that's going to be successful in that action or those things in your life. It's not you that's going to make it successful. It's Allah who's going to enable you to make it successful at the end of the day. You need to have that understanding first and foremost. So no matter what it is that you're in or where you are, your consciousness has to be around that. My success is determined based on Allah's permission to allow me to be successful. You need to understand that first. Then you know everything that you're doing is a source of remembrance of Allah. If you're studying, you have a reason and a purpose you're studying. You want to get a good job, you want to support your parents, you want to support your siblings, your family, your own family in the future, etc. You want to put yourself in a position to succeed, to give sadaqah, to give for the sake of Allah, right? These are the things that you're doing. This is why you're studying. This is why you're in the university, correct? So that's a sense of purpose. Once you've understood the sense of purpose, who's enabling that purpose? Allah. You can't do nothing without Allah at the end of the day. You can't study, for all you know, without Allah at the end of the day. You need to have that understanding. It needs to be very clear to you that this is what it is. So it's not about what can I do, it's that you need to reset your brain, like reset your mind to have this understanding. Allah is the enabler of all things. He is the one who is capable, not you. He can enable you, He can give you, He can open doors for you, He can close doors for you, He can make you fail, He can make you successful. فَعَالٌ لِمَا يُرِيدُ. He can do whatever He wants. Right? So you need to kind of understand that first. It's not about you. When you start making it about you, arrogance comes in. Simple as that. You need to remove that arrogance. You need to get that out. The question was actually incorrect. It wasn't, how can I be more conscious of Allah? That's a wrong question, technically. The real question is, why am I not already? How can I not be already? Who just enabled you to ask that question? Allah. Allah is the one who enabled you to ask that question. What triggered it? His remembrance. Correct? We're here remembering Allah. Angels are sitting with us, asking us for forgiveness from us. Asking Allah to forgive us, right? That's why we're here. That's what triggered it. So, I think just take a step back. Schedule everything around your deen, not the other way around. Deen's not here to accommodate you. It's really not. You're here to follow Allah's commands at the end of the day. He is the one that will enable you to be successful. He is the one who will determine your fate. He is the one who has written your fate and your destiny. You need to acknowledge that first. Once you've acknowledged that, the rest becomes a lot easier. But again, this takes a bit of practice too. And I think the best form of practice is like in your prayer. You know that in 45 minutes, you've got to get up and you've got to pray. And to the best of your ability, you've got to make it consistent and on time. The longer you delay it, don't then expect the delays from Allah to enable you. That's how it works. You want to enable success? Be on time. And Allah will be on time with you. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. I think we had another question back there. Yeah.
I actually had a question that, you know how you said that consuming like social media, like that's not the ideal way to consume knowledge. I understand that, but I personally believe like, it makes it a little more convenient when you're using social media.
Okay.
In your opinion, like what would be like, the best way to consume knowledge?
Sir, say that last part again.
Like, in your opinion, like what would be the best way for an individual to like consume knowledge about Islam, like learn more?
During
School or whatever.
read a book, go to a lecture, find a teacher. That's what I would do. Like when I go to the gym, right? Everybody around you is got these things in, right? And they're all, and some people aren't dressed appropriately. So I try to go to like a gym where it's like women have their own space and, it's separated. But sometimes you get some people that are a little off, but it's fine. If you go in the morning, you're good. How do you avoid this? How do you not get distracted by this? The amount of time you waste in the gym doing this, right? I take a little book. I can't take the Quran to gym, it's a dirty place. I'm not going to listen to Quran when I'm in the gym. Sometimes I have, but you need to do it with remembrance and you need to do it with a sense of listening, right? So what do? I take a little book like this. What is it? It's Husn Muslim. It's a little book like this. It goes in my pocket. When I'm on my rest period, I've got 2 minutes, 1 minute, 1.5 minute, 2.5 minutes of rest per after every set. Correct? What do? I open it. I start from the beginning and I just keep going until I get to a certain page and I'm done my 45 minutes. And I consume. And then I recognize, that's not a dua I've memorized. And I make note of it. And I come back to it. And then if I repeat that, how many times? Is it going to consume in here? Absolutely. At some point it will. So it's like I'm actually asking you to disconnect and reconnect in traditional methods of consuming information and knowledge. Right? Well, if I came here with my notes, I wouldn't come here with a tablet or a computer. I would bring my notebook. I would have my notes in it. And I would read those notes if that's how I was delivering this talk or this lecture. That's what I would do. Because that is, I'm not blaming you, bro. No, I'm just, he wants to, this is not knowledge here, this is a question, so we're good.
Yeah.
This is his question I'm answering. Some of these books are on PDF. You can obviously read them on PDF, but I'm saying consumption is not through social media. It's just not. It's not going to happen. Go ahead.
So, as students, if we're studying whatever we got our coursework going on, maybe we're on co-op, for example, working.
Yeah.
What are actual ways we can go about seeking knowledge?
Well, there's programs available. It just depends on where you are. Some masjids, they have actual course programs you can join. My feedback is, if you joined a halaqah program, every single day, let's say after Fajr, they had a program. The imam would read a hadith and explain it or whatever, let's say. Let's just say that's what was going on. But actually, to me, what I would do if I was in your shoes, or in everybody's shoes here, most people at least, is I would go into a Quran intensive memorization program. First and foremost. Before any of that knowledge. That's what I would do. Because that's like a quick fix to be going to Jannah versus going to hell. That can save me. That has value, tangible value. And it has value in terms of affecting me in my daily life. And it has value in me passing it on to my children. And it has value in the other aspects of my life. And I can continue to implement it without the teacher when I leave. That's the easiest way, best route. That's where I would start. Now, if for those of you who have memorized or have good recitation or done through Quran programs and whatever, what I would do is I would join a course of something that you know and something that you don't know, and expand and learn. I had a teacher one time, they were teaching a course about fiqh of some in the Shafi'i madhab, I think. I'm not even Shafi'i. I don't follow that madhab. That's not my madhab. So I was like, can I join the course? He's like, why do you want to join the course? I'm like, honestly, Sheikh, I just want to come because this is a place where I can learn and be where the angels are. That's it. That's it. I don't care about the content. Yeah, it's important, I'll learn something, but that's not my purpose. My purpose is I'm there to purify myself. That's how you purify yourself. It's not about the consumption of the information. It's about how many ways can you put yourself in a setting like this to get a general reminder, to get something out of it. If you want to do something intensive, you can do it. The mentality is completely different. Now, if you're trying to get married, let's say, they got these courses on fiqh of marriage, or you were trying to understand your zakat calculations and they did fiqh of zakat, or they did fiqh of hajj. You're going to hajj and you want to know what you need to do, or umrah. What are the procedures? What are the rituals and aspects of hajj? Okay. You attend that course, you consume the knowledge, and then you go and you implement the knowledge, correct? This is useful, right? Other aspects, tafsir and all this stuff, you could generally find resources at the masjid. You could probably find videos that are consistent, you can follow the videos and not waste time. You can just watch the video, watch the lecture, consume it over 30 minutes, 1 hour, whatever, and break it up, and then take that information slowly at your own pace. That's all. That's an option as well. Absolutely. These are ways you can do it. Starting point is probably one of those things. Yeah. Make sense? Go ahead.
Before we get to that, actually, do we have any questions from the sister side at all? Well, oh, yeah.
Sorry, can you speak a little louder? Yeah, that's a good question.
If you could repeat the question.
Yeah, the question was what about for reverts that maybe don't have the language and might not have the same amount of resources as everybody else? My recommendation to a revert would be to start with the Book of Allah, hands down. If there's anywhere that you can learn the Book of Allah in the best form, in the best way possible, that's where I would start for a revert. Because you're going to start with the letters. That'll teach you the Arabic letters, and that'll help you with your reading in the Arabic language as well. It really depends on the community for resources. I I can comment about a lot of things we don't have in this community, but and others like with some of the messages I give khutbahs in, like in Mississauga, for example, I can see like there's not enough even there for resources for reverts. I have a friend actually who's in Dawah in Mauritania. He has he has a program for reverts online where he helps them through like phases and different aspects of being a Muslim and all the consistent things that they need to do on a daily basis, right? To be the best form or the best person that they can be as a believer. And then he teaches Arabic on top of that and very basic level, to learn. So there's resources like that are available. I'm happy to help with that. But in terms of direct access from the community, it's a little tough for me to answer that without knowing like where it is. I could probably point to some things, but I can't, I wouldn't know where to start other than the Quran. If I was to say, if you can find a Quran program that can cater to that level, that's beyond, like you'll find that anywhere. Every masjid will have some sort of program that will teach you from the beginning of reading and memorizing the Quran. So the basics of that. That would be my beginning point. The rest of it will be like, again, through books would be a good way. Obviously having a teacher is a big, big benefit, but sometimes it's not always available, especially for if they were a sister, maybe even less available because, there's not that many sisters that teach that I've seen in Canada at least. So does that help?
Any other questions? Okay. You want to go back to your question? Or? Yeah.
So you also mentioned that this answer as well, and basically about getting knowledge and starting at a foundation. Maybe you're doing a course, you're learning from somewhere. Let's say, for example, if you're taking a course and it comes in parts, and let's say, for example, that the parts are self-paced. So if you do a part, you can wait however long you want before the second part, even if that's just like division between lecture videos or anything.
Okay.
As a general principle, would you say it's better to, in essence, complete the course and then try to apply it? Or you take every single part of that course and you try to apply every bit of it as best as possible before moving to the next part? And even if that's like maybe doing the whole course, applying it fully, then going to the next course, just like the general principle of you get knowledge, should I try to apply it to like its absolute best before moving on to anything else?
Okay, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he has a hadith where he said, do what you're capable of doing in terms of knowledge and doing actions. So actually what I would do is I would listen to as much as I can in a single session, and I would look at what I'm actually capable of doing, what I could do that is easy, and then I would not do, unless it's compulsory, I wouldn't look at it. That's what I would do. Like in the morning adhkar, there's so many du'as that I could say, correct? Okay, I mean, can't say all of them. I don't think I have either the time or maybe the du'a is really long or something like that, right? So I would just choose what I can. So like for example, if I have the du'a book, there's a section on the travel. And if I'm in a plane and I want to do my du'as for the travel, I'll open it up, I'll read it, right? And I'll say as much as I can until I get tired. Right? That's it. Keep it simple. Don't think you gotta consume all this information. No, it's not like that. Take what you can, what you think is realistic to you. Maybe in that section you start with one thing. You take it, and then you move on to the next section. Do it again. Because chances are that's not the last time you're gonna listen to that type of lecture or that type of course. You're going to do it again. I've done a fiqh of Hajj course. Never been to Hajj. I haven't done Hajj yet. Inshallah, Allah will give us the opportunity in the future for all of us, inshallah. But I took the course. Will I do it again in the future? Absolutely. I'm going to take it again because it's going to be a repetition. I'm going to remember things, right? I have my notes. I'm going to remember them. And then I'm going to learn new things because a new teacher will introduce other new stuff into it, right? So don't ever think that you learn something and then you're not going to do it again. You're going to do it again. I don't know how many times I've done the tafsir of Surah Al-Fatiha, right? Will I do it again? Absolutely. I'll do it again. I'll do it again. I'll do it again. There's always something in there that is a detail that I would love to learn more about, or a question that I'm thinking more deeply about, because that was maybe 3 years ago, or a year ago, or 6 months ago, and now I'm different. I'm more consistent. I'm better. Okay, I have more questions, or I have more I want to explore about that in the language, etc. So you just keep going. See what I mean?
Before we move on, Sheikh, is it okay if we keep going until Maghrib? Or?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so you mentioned that memorizing the Quran is a great first step to take when trying to get translate that knowledge into action. So there's like some statements from the scholars and Sahaba that the Sahaba would memorize like 10 verses or a certain amount of verses, and they wouldn't move on until they implemented the verses and took action on that. So
Correct.
What are your thoughts on that? How can we apply that in the context of memorizing the Quran, and also the context of us not even knowing it, like a lot of us not even knowing Arabic, it's not being our first language. Like, how do we apply this statement of the Sahaba in our lives?
See, the difference is the Sahaba, they had language, okay? So pondering upon it is a lot easier when you understand the words or the way the words are kind of framed. There's a high level of language in there that needs to be pondered upon. It makes it easier to sit there and think about it, correct? So if I said like a quote in English, no quotes in English is coming to my head. Let's see, something that somebody said that stood out to me. There was one about, for example, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. CTO told me one time from when I was an engineer. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? Okay, I can think about that, right? I think about it. I take it in, and I realize, okay, there's going to be things that are uncomfortable, and I just have to get used to those uncomfortable scenarios being in front of me, correct? And that was pretty quick for me to like think about that. And that wasn't a long statement or a long sentence or anything, right? Okay, imagine you knew what the Arabic language was. You could think to some degree to that level of like trying to get to conclusions quickly about what it's trying to say to you, right? So that's one thing. That's one sort of disability that we have on our side. The second thing is, like if you look at Umar radiallahu anhu, it took him like 13 years to do Surah Al-Baqarah. Why? Because of this reason. He would do one ayah until it was implemented and actioned in his life. Only then would he move on to the next one. Right? It's a long time. 3, if I told you this is what you have to do, there's a more likely chance you won't do it. You just won't do it. What I would prefer is that you do as much memorization as you possibly can. As much as you possibly can. And with the intention that what you're reading is a shifa for your body and your soul. Regardless you understand it or you don't understand it. And other aspects of it will be for you to learn the Arabic language more. So that's another to-do list, right? But I'm not going to make the Arabic language to learn it a barrier for you to memorize it if you can already read. Because that would be wrong. We don't live in that time and age anymore. We need to make it easy for people to go and move, right? This is what we need to do. That's why I won't recommend approaching it this way. But I will recommend to you that in your Quran schedule, set aside time to take the translation or to look at a tafsir video of that surah or a program or whatever, and to learn from it. So you know what you're reading. So you just kind of have to organize yourself. You know that you're going to memorize 5 ayahs, 3 ayahs, whatever it is, 1 ayah every single day, but you're going to listen to a tafsir of this surah. You know, if it's, let's say, 3 hours long, you're going to take it in 15-minute increments. Correct? And that's what you do. And then Arabic will be a separate thing on its own that you'll learn from a class or some sort of setting, right? So they're different things, but they're all about the same stuff. But one doesn't depend on the other. If I did that, but you guys won't do nothing. Even myself, I won't do anything, right? So.
Any further questions? Okay, so shifting gears a bit, one question we have here. So, with regard to enjoining good and forbidding evil, a lot of us are familiar with that kind of term. How does that come into the idea?
Actually, wait, before you continue, I'll give you one piece of advice, okay, that you can implement right now. Okay, look at all this. Shoes all over the place. You see the kuffar, they come and they see shoes on the ground like this outside and Jum'ah, what are they going to think? Oh man, these guys are disorganized, dirty. All of the stereotypes will come out, correct or no? When you go make wudu in the washroom, and water's all over the place, what are they going to think? Oh my God, these Muslims, they came in, they made a mess, and then they left. What are they going to think? You're dirty. This is what I'm talking about. This little thing here, you take your shoes off, you put it on the rack, you take your backpack, you organize it in a specific way. I don't know if all this junk's supposed to be here, but this is what I'm talking about. When you have your garbage, you don't leave it, you throw it out in a nice way. This is what I'm talking about. If you do those little things, you're going to see they're going to add up. This is about cleanliness. Al-Iman, al-Nadafatu, nisful Iman, which is the more accurate. The Iman itself, half of it, cleanliness is half of it. So this is what I'm talking about. Ever been to a really dirty room? If you ever had a room that's really disorganized, makes me go nuts. Do you want to study in there? No. What do? You pack up your bags, you put your laptop, put your notebook, and you go to the library. Why? Because it's clean. That's why you go to the library. Or else you'd be studying at home. Unless you feel like you're sleepy in the room, and maybe that's another reason you go and you study in the library. But this is what I'm talking about. These little things, they matter. You might not think so, but they matter. What other people think of you as a believer, by the way, it matters. Oh, well, then we don't care what they think. Absolutely, you should. You should care what they think of you. That's the point. Right? This is what it is. All it takes is one guy and with his phone comes in and says, look at MC, whatever this room number is. Look at what these Muslims have done. Right? Or he makes a stereotype for a culture or a country. What happens? We're embarrassed, correct? That's why you have to care. Because they're looking at any excuse to get you, to put you down. And actually, it's not about you. It's actually to put Allah and His Messenger down. So every time you do it wrong, you'll see yourself in a position to fail. That's what happens. You're putting yourself in a position to fail. And when you do this, don't ask me why the Palestinians are suffering. Because that's why. Simple things like this, they make a difference for them. Because at the end of the day, as the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he said, the believer, they're like a brick wall. If one piece of the wall is contaminated or broken, eventually what will happen? The wall will fall and it will break, or will be breakable, or will be thin, or will be contaminated, and it won't serve its purpose anymore. And we won't hold ourselves up. We're holding each other up at the end of the day. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. Allah doesn't change the situation of a people until the people, they change themselves. And that's what it's about. Sorry, I cut you off.
Hope this is a little bit better.
That's much better.
Okay. Any questions relating to that? Okay. So this is probably the last point. So about enjoining good and forbidding evil, how does that relate to our knowledge and applying that? To what extent should we be enjoining good and forbidding evil? And how do we deal with things like, difference of opinion, or maybe we don't know the full circumstance of a forbidden thing? How do we go about enjoining good and forbidding evil?
I mean, you should always be enjoining good and forbidding evil. I'm not sure what your question, like, what
It's
are
kind
you,
of
what are you
like-
trying to get at? What are you trying to ask?
It's kind of like, let's say you, like, how do you go about it in a way without turning the person away?
Like somebody asks you something, or what
No,
do
you
mean?
see something wrong happening, and,
Yeah.
and how do you go about fixing that in a realistic way without, making the person, like, hate you?
You talk to them privately. You don't make it a public scene. You make sure nobody even knows that you talk to the individual. You don't talk about it when you say, oh, I told the guy to move that thing over there. No. It's not what you do. You don't make it a public thing. You remind them in a nice way. That doesn't, like, I didn't exactly point to which shoe was, And actually, I know that the people that were cleaning up weren't the people that owned the shoes. They were just people that just kind of wanted to clean up, correct? So I didn't directly point at somebody and say, oh, you did this, you should go fix it. No. It's a general thing, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, can you speak up? I just can't hear you.
Sometimes people are limited in knowledge, that is another difference of opinion. So like, how would you, if someone is correcting someone else about something, it's a difference of opinion, and how would that be like practical?
Yeah, I remember like I was at another university, and I went to pray. I was doing Qasr Jama' because it was too far. Like I was really far away. And maybe more than 120 kilometers or something like that. And I was praying Qasr Jama', but that guy was local. And he's like, are you going to pray? I'm like, yeah, I'm praying, but I'm doing Qasr Jama' because I've been traveling and then I came and all this stuff. And then he says to me, oh, I can't pray with you because I'm praying, this prayer. Because it was Asr, I hadn't prayed Dhuhr yet because I was praying Qasr Jama', I was combining. But I was praying Dhuhr first. And he's like, I can't pray behind you because we're not praying the same prayer. Now that's a difference of opinion, right? I respected that. I said, no problem. If that's what you want to follow, and you have a dalil and you have evidence for that madhab or for that ruling, no problem. I support you. Absolutely. Go ahead and do your prayer. Right? I think it's more about accepting that there is a difference of opinion on many matters in the deen. Many matters in the deen. There's a difference of opinion. We have to be accepting of it. Now, there's this culture of, see, I'm of the opinion that if you have evidence, like either in your madhab or if there's a dalil to support it, that is not just supported with evidence, but actually, sorry, it has to be supported with evidence and the majority. That's what I follow. If the majority say it and there's evidence to support it, no problem. All good. I'll accept whatever other differences inside of it that are sort of details. But if it's something, my sheikh said this imam said that, I don't accept it. Period. I don't care what the sheikh said. I care what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam he told me. I care what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala he said in his book. This is what I care about. If you have those two things, and you have the ijma' of the ulama and their understanding of that thing, you're good. But some things there's differences. Like there's a hadith about, or there's a ruling in the Hanafi madhab, like if I bleed in the Hanafi madhab, my wudu is gone. For different reasons. Like there's different evidences to support that in the hadiths. But then there's a hadith of Umar, he's being assassinated. And the only way they could get to Umar is in his prayer. So he stabs him in his prayer. What's he doing? He's bleeding. Did Umar stop and defend himself and fight? No. He continued in his prayer. And therefore they use this evidence against the other evidences to say, no, it doesn't break your wudu because Umar continued to pray. See what I mean? So Can you make an argument for one? Absolutely. Can you make an argument for the other? Absolutely. But I would go with what is the ijma'? The ijma' will tell me that it doesn't. So that's what I would go with, you know? So that's how I approach it, and we have to be respectful of other opinions. But if those other opinions are not backed by evidence and they're backed by some shuyukh that he just made an opinion, we don't support that. That's how you have to think. Okay? Make sense?
So touching upon the amr bil ma'ruf wa nahy anil munkar, and you mentioned like advising privately. What about things that are in a public setting? Like for example, if someone is doing something wrong in a public setting. For example, if you're with your friends and someone makes a joke that maybe isn't the best joke, is that something you address in public? How do you do it without coming off as someone who's just being holier than thou kind of thing? Like, what's the best way to approach this kind of
So it happens in a public setting.
So like if you're with your friends, someone makes a joke about someone else, and he's playing it off as a joke, right? But we know in Islam this might not be the best joke to make. How do you address that in the setting without, killing the mood or being holier than thou, that kind of stuff that people often bring up, and they might play it off and say, hey, it was just a joke. We didn't mean it as...
I would make it a reminder for everybody, not a reminder for the individual. I would say, hey, let's all respect each other, and this isn't Islamic of us to make jokes like this, and I'm the first one responsible for it. Blame yourself first. Make it a reminder and a thing about you before you tell others, and then make it about everybody else at the same time. You get what I'm saying? You don't say, oh, Muhammad, you shouldn't do that, man, Jahannam, you can't do that. Don't do that. That's not the prophetic way of reminding. But if even then they continue, then you should leave that setting. You should leave that group. Even you have examples of, in the Prophet ﷺ's time in Medina, a man came and he peed in the masjid, right? And Umar's ready and everybody's ready, takes their swords out, they want to come after him, right? What do you do? Prophet ﷺ, what did he say? He says, stop, let the guy finish, and then when he's done, what does he do? He goes and he cleans it himself. So we're not supposed to have a reactionary, they're looking for a reaction from us. All of these individuals out there. They all want us to react to whatever they're saying, whatever they're doing, and anybody who has a mouth that is filled with something filthy coming out of it is trying to trigger you regardless, trying to create a reaction from you no matter what. So you have to be aware of that. If you react, you lost.
We'll take the last question.
I actually had a question about doing dhikr. So basically my question with that is like, people say when you're supposed to do dhikr, right? It's supposed to be, you can't do it passively. You're supposed to have full remembrance of Allah. We're thoughts of just doing it like 1-2 hours a day, even when we're walking to class, for example, or like we're sitting in like class and we're not paying attention to the dhikr then, or could you only do it like after prayer?
Okay, what is the evidence to support that it needs to be in a specific setting?
Not specific setting, but you need to have complete mindedness of all that you can. A lot of people have said that, like, when doing dhikr, you should be completely active.
So, my argument is that the Prophet ﷺ, in the time of Imam Ahmad, when he was traveling to give a lecture, he was traveling in the desert and he went to the masjid to give the lecture. He got there a little bit early. He wanted to sleep there. And one of the gatekeepers or the custodians of the masjid, they saw him. He looked like a homeless man because he was covered in dust and sand and all of that, and very dirty. And he dragged Imam Abu Hanifa out of the masjid. And when he dragged him out of the masjid, without knowing who he was, obviously, it was another city, Imam Ahmad, he realized, he was like shocked about what happened to him. So he saw a bakery that was open very early before Fajr, because the Fajr prayer had not kicked in. He goes into the place where he was, and he was saying to him, like, can I stay here until Fajr because this happened to me, that happened. He's like, absolutely. You can sleep there. This is my bed. I live in this place. I cook here, whatever. This is what I do. I'm happy to have you here, and you can sit there and do whatever you need to do in Brest. Okay? He watches this man. This man, he's cooking. He's grinding. He's making dough. He's saying and while he's doing it, he's saying astaghfirullah, 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 while he's cooking, while he's doing. Okay? And Imam Ahmad, he says, this is profound. I can't believe what's going on right now. This guy is making dhikr while he's cooking. How is that possible? So then he asks him, what are you doing? He's like, I'm making dhikr. I make istighfar every time I'm cooking, every single morning. And he said, what benefit have you seen from it? He said, I've seen every single benefit, every single thing that I've asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for, He has accepted it from me and He has given it to me, except for one thing. And he said, what is that thing? He said, I wanted to meet Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal. So I'm not saying that this is evidence, 100% of but this is one example of many examples I can give you that will tell you otherwise. That actually, if I just set the intention before I walk that I want to make dhikr, that is my mindset and my intention and my, where my heart is, that I want to make dhikr while I'm walking. If it's about my, whatever it is, like I could be walking, I could be, I could literally be doing squats. Astaghfirullah, man. Allahu Akbar. There's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong. You're calling to Allah. You're calling for strength from Allah. You're calling for istighfar from Allah. There's nothing wrong with doing it in those settings, as long as you set the intention from the beginning before you do that action. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. In fact, I highly recommend it.
All right, so I think it is Maghrib, so we'll end it there. Jazakallah khairan, Sheikh. Thank you so much for coming by. On the topic of pursuing knowledge, and specifically as the Ustadh mentioned, Quran, we'll be having Quran circles right here, after Maghrib. So stick around and we'll recite some Quran, inshallah. Thank you.
Jazakallah khairan, everyone. So just a couple more announcements. So like Sahel said, we have Quran